Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're really getting into the historical significance of Boston, Massachusetts. Basically exploring the origins of American liberty.
Right. The source material we're looking at calls it a place where cobblestone streets echo with the footsteps of revolution. It's quite evocative.
It really is.
And our source, it's a pretty detailed treatment and script outline for a historical documentary. The title is Boston's Revolutionary Past, the Cradle of American Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission, really, for this deep dive is to pull out the key insights from that overview to help you understand how, ordinary people in Boston took some extraordinary risks.
Risks that ultimately lit the spark of American independence.
Exactly.
And that's why Boston gets called the cradle of American liberty, right? We're going to unpack those key moments that happened there.
Let's do it.
So let's picture Boston. Mid-18th century, it wasn't just some quiet little city by the sea, was it?
Oh, not at all, no. By the mid-18th century, the source describes Boston as, a hub of trade, a center of ideas, and, critically, a hotbed of dissent.
A hotbed of dissent. I like that.
Yeah, think about the mix of people. You had merchants, shipbuilders, artisans, and also enslaved people, all part of this really vibrant but also tense urban scene.
Right.
And they were all plugged into this huge thing called the Atlantic world economy, this, network connecting Europe, Africa, the Americas through trade and ideas.
Okay.
And the crucial part, taxes. Taxes coming from London, from across the Atlantic. And they really started to, stoke anger, especially among merchants and
You
laborers.
can see that frustration building.
Definitely. And you see it clearly in things like colonial newspapers from back then. The source highlights that frustration with British taxes quite a bit.
So it sounds like the city was already kind of simmering. What pushed it over the edge? What were those first specific events that turned frustration into, actual revolt?
Well, things really picked up speed with events like the Stamp Act protests. That was 1765.
Right, the Stamp Acts.
Yeah, and these weren't small things. These were big, organized protests. And it's around this time the Sons of Liberty get founded.
Ah, the Sons of Liberty. Key players.
Absolutely. And figures like Samuel Adams, John Hancock, they emerge really quickly as these incredibly effective leaders. They knew how to get people fired up, how to organize.
They weren't just complaining, they were building something.
Exactly. Building a political movement, really.
Okay, so that's 1765. Then, 5 years later, 1770, we get to something really intense. The Boston Massacre.
Hmm.
Here's where it gets, really tragic. 5 colonists shot dead by British soldiers. What happened right after? How did that ripple outwards?
Yeah, the massacre.
Yeah.
It's crucial not just because people died, tragically, but how fast it became, a propaganda battle.
Propaganda, okay.
The tension had been building, British soldiers everywhere, daily friction. But after the shooting, Paul Revere, his engraving of the massacre, it was like a masterclass in shaping public opinion.
The famous one, right? Very dramatic.
Very dramatic, and deliberately so. He showed the soldiers as the aggressors, firing into this, seemingly peaceful crowd. It wasn't the whole truth, but
It was powerful.
incredibly powerful. It painted this picture of British tyranny, and that image, that story, it ignited anger all across the colonies. It really pushed them closer together against Britain.
Wow. So that image really fueled the fire. And that anger, it didn't just go away, did it? It seems like it just kept building, especially leading up to the whole issue with the Tea Act later on.
Exactly. That simmering anger, that unrest, it all boiled over on December 16th, 1773, one of the most, iconic moments in American history. The Boston Tea Party.
Right. The tea goes into the harbor.
Yep. Our source gives this great visual. Men disguised as Mohawks boarding ships and crates of tea splashing into dark waters.
So this wasn't just a random riot, was it?
No. It was planned, calculated,
Yeah.
a really bold act targeting the Tea Act specifically, which represented, British control over their economy.
And that message they sent, destroying all that tea,
Mm-hmm.
it was loud and clear.
Unmistakable.
They weren't just throwing tea overboard. They were throwing years of frustration, years of feeling ignored right into the harbor.
Very much. Yeah.
And the message was what? That liberty was worth fighting for, worth the risk.
Absolutely. Liberty was worth the risk. And they were showing it in this very public, very destructive way.
Okay, so you dump all the king's tea in the harbor.
Mm.
What happens next? How did the British react to that? And how did that push things from protest towards actual war?
Well, the British reaction was predictable, maybe. Swift and severe. They passed laws that the colonists called the Intolerable Acts.
Intolerable acts. Even the name tells you something.
Right. They basically locked down Boston, put the city under military occupation, closed the port, slashed its self-government.
Wow. So living there must have felt suffocating.
Exactly. Like living in occupied territory. It pushed a lot of people who might have been on the fence right over the edge.
And it's in that atmosphere, that powder keg, that we get Paul Revere's Midnight Ride in 1775.
That iconic moment. Yeah. Though it's good to remember Revere wasn't alone. He was part of this whole organized network.
Right, warning system.
Exactly. Warning the militia that the British troops were marching out, heading for Lexington and Concord to grab colonial weapons and maybe capture leaders like Adams and Hancock.
And that warning,
Mm.
it led directly to conflict.
Directly. First, the battles of Lexington and Concord, and soon after, the Battle of Bunker Hill just outside Boston. And that was the real shift.
The point of no return.
Yeah. Like the source says, the revolution was no longer words and protests, but open war. Suddenly, it's farmers grabbing muskets, church bells ringing alarms, militias gathering,
Facing the British Army?
facing the British Army. It was raw, it was real, and there was no going back.
Incredible. Just the speed of that escalation. So thinking beyond those first battles, what's the lasting impact? What's the enduring legacy of Boston's role in all this?
Well, Boston really stands as this powerful symbol of civic resistance. That's a key takeaway from the source.
Civic resistance. Okay.
Yeah, and the ideas that were forged there, democracy, the right to dissent, civic engagement, they didn't just vanish after the war.
It stuck around.
They became fundamental. They've influenced, countless social justice movements throughout American history right up to today. It's this reminder that citizens can, and maybe sometimes should, challenge authority.
When liberties are threatened.
Precisely.
And you really feel that when you walk around Boston today, don't you? You see the landmarks. Paul Revere statue, Old North Church where the lanterns are hung.
Faneuil Hall, where they had all those meetings.
Right. And the Bunker Hill Monument. They're not just stone and bronze. They're like connections, reminders.
Tangible reminders, yeah. They make you think about the courage of the people who walked those same streets. So, Boston's streets, they really are more than just, pathways of stone. They feel like chapters in the nation's story.
Whispering those tales of independence.
You could say that, yeah.
It really is the place where, courage stood up to an empire, where that big, audacious dream of American liberty was actually born.
A good way to put it.
So maybe something for you, the listener, to think about. How does understanding the extraordinary risks that ordinary people took back then in Boston, how does it continue to shape how we think about liberty and our own civic responsibilities even now?